Take a look at what happened.
What if a cartoon could peer into the future? The Simpsons, known for its humor, has also gained fame for something far stranger: its ability to predict real-world events. From the surprising rise of Donald Trump to the chaos of the Capitol riots, this show consistently seems to know what's coming. Join us as we unravel these astonishing predictions and reveal the insane Donald Trump predictions that came true. Number 17, Trump's presidency. When The Simpsons aired the episode Bart to the Future in 2000, the idea of Donald Trump becoming the President of the United States seemed like a joke that no one took seriously. The episode featured Lisa Simpson as the first female president, inheriting a country in economic turmoil due to the policies of her predecessor, President Trump. Little did anyone know that this seemingly absurd scenario would become a reality 16 years later. In 2016, Donald Trump, the billionaire businessman and reality TV star, defied all odds and expectations to win the presidency, sending shockwaves through the political establishment and the nation as a whole. But The Simpsons didn't just predict the fact of Trump's presidency. They also managed to foresee the economic challenges that would follow. In the episode, Lisa is seen struggling to address the country's financial woes, a situation that bears an eerie resemblance to the real-life economic issues faced by President Biden when he took office in 2021, following the COVID-19 pandemic and years of controversial policies under the Trump administration. Number 16, The Simpsons Electoral Map. In the high-stakes world of American politics, predicting the outcome of a presidential election is the holy grail of punditry. Pollsters and analysts spend countless hours crunching numbers, studying demographic trends, and reading the tea leaves of public opinion, all in the hopes of getting a glimpse of the future. But what if the key to predicting the next occupant of the White House wasn't buried in a mountain of data, but hidden in plain sight on a beloved animated sitcom? That's the question on the minds of many fans of The Simpsons, who have noticed an eerie pattern of the show predicting the outcome of presidential elections with uncanny accuracy. Take, for example, the episode Mr. Burns Endorses Romney, which aired in 2012. In the episode, a map of the United States is shown, with states colored red or blue to indicate their political leanings. At the time, the map was just a throwaway gag, a bit of visual humor that played on the familiar tropes of election coverage. But fast forward to 2020, and that very same map suddenly took on a whole new significance. As the votes were counted and the electoral map began to take shape, fans of the show couldn't help but notice a striking similarity between the fictional map from 2012 and the real-life results playing out before their eyes. With the exception of a few key swing states, the map from The Simpsons was a near-perfect match for the actual electoral map of 2020, correctly predicting the outcome of the election a full 8 years before it happened. Number 15, voting machines gone wild. Imagine this. You walk into the voting booth, ready to cast your ballot for the candidate of your choice. You press the button next to their name, feeling a sense of pride and civic duty. But then, something strange happens. The machine seems to have a mind of its own, registering your vote for the wrong candidate. It's a nightmare scenario, one that seems too absurd to be true. But in the world of The Simpsons, it's just another day at the polls. In the episode Treehouse of Horror 19, Homer tries to vote for Barack Obama in the 2008 presidential election, only to have the machine repeatedly switch his vote to John McCain. At the time, it seemed like a silly gag, a bit of satirical commentary on the glitches and irregularities that can plague our voting systems. But fast forward to 2012, and the joke took on a new level of significance. In the real-life presidential election, reports started surfacing of voting machines in Pennsylvania that were changing votes for Obama to votes for Mitt Romney. Number 14, Riots and Unrest. It was a scene that shocked the nation. A mob of angry rioters storming the Capitol building in a violent display of unrest. But for fans of The Simpsons, it was a moment of eerie déjà vu, a reminder of the show's uncanny ability to predict the future. In the episode The Day the Violence Died, which aired all the way back in 1996, we see a group of characters storming the steps of the Capitol, wielding weapons and causing chaos. It's a moment played for laughs in the world of the show, But in the wake of the real-life Capitol riot on January 6, 2021, it takes on a chilling new significance. But the parallels don't stop there. In the episode Beyond Blunderdome, released in 1999, we see a character named Mel Gibson wreaking havoc on the Senate floor, destroying everything in his path. Again, it's a moment of satirical comedy, but in light of the all-too-real violence that unfolded in the Capitol, it feels like a prophetic warning of the dangers of political unrest. And then there are the smaller details, the little moments that seem to foreshadow the events of January 6th in uncanny ways, like the episode The Telltale Head, where Bart steals the head of a statue, or the episode The Mansion Family, where Homer tries to steal a large statue and drag it out of a building. On their own, these moments might seem insignificant, but in the context of the Capitol riot, where rioters were seen carrying off podiums and other objects, they take on a new level of significance. Number 13. NSA Is Watching. It's a plot point straight out of a dystopian novel, a massive government agency, listening in on the private conversations of citizens around the world. But when The Simpsons tackled the topic of NSA surveillance back in 2007, it seemed like just another example of the show's trademark satirical humor. In the movie The Simpsons Movie, Lisa Simpson warns her family about the dangers of government overreach, cautioning that it's not like the government is listening to everyone's conversation. Cut to a scene inside the NSA, where a board agent is doing exactly that, eavesdropping on the mundane chatter of Springfield's residents. At the time, the joke played like an exaggerated riff on the post-9/11 security state, a world where the government's reach seemed to be expanding at an alarming rate. But just 6 years later, the punchline would take on a chilling new significance, as a former NSA contractor named Edward Snowden blew the whistle on the agency's massive surveillance apparatus. In a series of bombshell leaks, Snowden revealed that the NSA was indeed listening in on the phone calls and emails of millions of Americans, as well as monitoring the communications of foreign leaders and citizens around the world. The revelations sparked a global debate about privacy, security, and the limits of government power, with Snowden hailed as a hero by some and denounced as a traitor by others. Number 12. The future is calling. Today, video calling is as routine as making a phone call, but back in the 1990s, it was pure science fiction. Imagine seeing the person you're talking to, live, from anywhere in the world, something that felt like a distant future. But for Lisa Simpson, that future wasn't so far off. In the 1995 episode Lisa's Wedding, Lisa visits a fortune teller who shows her a glimpse of her future, including a picture phone call with her mom, Marge. At the time, the idea of a video phone was pure fantasy, the kind of gadget that only existed in the minds of the most imaginative futurists. But fast forward to the 2010s, and suddenly, the picture phone became a reality. With the advent of smartphones and apps like FaceTime and Skype, video calling went from a far-off dream to an everyday occurrence. And that's not the only bit of future tech that The Simpsons managed to predict. In the same episode, we see Hugh, Lisa's British beau, using what appears to be a smartwatch to communicate. Again, this was a concept that was way ahead of its time, a full decade before the first Apple Watch hit the market. Of course, not every prediction in Lisa's Wedding came true. We're still waiting on those flying cars and robot butlers. But when it comes to the future of communication, The Simpsons was spot on, even if it took us a few decades to catch up to their vision. Number 11. Higgs boson particle. Homer Simpson might not be known for his genius, but in one iconic scene, he casually predicts one of the biggest scientific discoveries of the 21st century. In the 1998 episode The Wizard of Evergreen Terrace, Homer decides to reinvent himself as an inventor, and at one point, he's seen scribbling complex equations on a blackboard. What most viewers didn't realize was that one of those formulas was a surprisingly close approximation of the mass of the Higgs boson particle, a groundbreaking discovery made years later. For those not up on their particle physics, the Higgs boson is a subatomic particle that was first predicted in the 1960s, but wasn't actually discovered until 2012, when scientists at the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland detected its presence using the most powerful particle accelerator ever built. The discovery was hailed as a landmark moment in the history of science, confirming a key piece of the standard model of particle physics and earning the researchers behind it the Nobel Prize in Physics. But here's the thing. Homer's equation predicted the mass of the Higgs boson a full 14 years before its actual discovery. and with a margin of error of just 4.6%. That's an astonishing level of accuracy for a throwaway gag in a cartoon sitcom, and it's led some fans to speculate that the show's writers must have had some inside knowledge of the state of particle physics research at the time. The equation on Homer's blackboard was written by David X. Cohen, a writer on The Simpsons, who also happened to have a degree in physics from Harvard University. Cohen has said that he included the equation as a nod to the ongoing search for the Higgs boson, but he never expected it to be quite so prescient. Number 10. The mouse swallows the fox. It was a corporate takeover that sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry. Disney, the beloved studio known for a family-friendly fare, acquiring 20th Century Fox, the studio behind hits like The Simpsons and Deadpool. For fans of the yellow-skinned family from Springfield, the deal brought a strange sense of déjà vu. In an episode from the late 1990s, When You Dish Upon a Star, there's a blink and you'll miss it moment that seems to predict the future with eerie accuracy. As the camera pans over the 20th Century Fox studio lot, a sign comes into view that reads, 20th Century Fox, a division of Walt Disney Company. At the time, the gag must have seemed like a playful jab at the cutthroat nature of the entertainment business, a world where corporate giants are always looking to gobble up their rivals. But fast forward to 2019, and suddenly, the joke wasn't so funny anymore. In a deal worth a staggering $71.3 billion, Disney acquired 21st Century Fox, bringing The Simpsons and a host of other beloved properties under the same roof as Mickey Mouse and the gang. Number 9. Sweeping to victory. When it comes to Olympic glory, there are few things more surprising than a team of American curlers standing atop the podium, gold medals draped around their necks. But that's exactly what happened at the 2018 Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang, South Korea, when the U.S. men's curling team stunned the world by claiming the top prize in a sport long dominated by Canadians and Europeans. For fans of The Simpsons, though, the victory may not have come as such a shock. That's because back in 2010, the show aired an episode titled Boy Meets Curl, in which Homer and Marge Simpson form a mixed curling team and improbably find themselves representing the United States at the Winter Olympics in Vancouver. In the episode, the Simpsons are joined by their neighbors Agnes and Seymour Skinner, who are portrayed as seasoned curlers with a long history in the sport. Together, the four of them managed to beat out the heavily favored Swedish team to claim the gold medal, sending the crowd into a frenzy of patriotic fervor. At the time, the idea of an American curling team winning Olympic gold seemed like a far-fetched fantasy, the kind of thing that could only happen in the wacky world of The Simpsons. But fast forward 8 years and suddenly the joke doesn't seem so funny anymore. In a stunning upset, the U.S. men's curling team defeated Sweden in the gold medal match in Pyeongchang, securing the first ever Olympic title for an American team in the sport. The victory was all the more impressive given the team's underdog status going into the tournament, with many experts dismissing their chances of even making it to the podium. Number 8. When hip-hop met classical. It was a mashup that nobody saw coming. Cypress Hill, the legendary hip-hop group known for their gritty lyrics and hard-hitting beats, sharing the stage with the London Symphony Orchestra, one of the most prestigious classical music ensembles in the world. But in the bizarro world of The Simpsons, anything is possible, even a collaboration that seems to defy the laws of musical physics. The unlikely pairing first appeared in the 1996 episode Homerpalooza, in which Homer becomes a carnival freak and ends up performing at a music festival alongside some of the biggest names in rock and rap. In one memorable scene, Cypress Hill takes the stage with the London Symphony Orchestra and launches into a rendition of Insane in the Brain that's equal parts surreal and hilarious. At the time, the idea of a hip-hop group performing with a symphony orchestra must have seemed like a joke, a bit of absurdist humor that could only exist in the wildest dreams of a Simpsons writer. But fast forward a quarter of a century, and suddenly, the gag doesn't seem so far-fetched anymore. In 2024, Cypress Hill announced that they would be performing at the Royal Albert Hall in London with none other than the London Symphony Orchestra, the same ensemble that had appeared alongside them in The Simpsons all those years ago. The news sent shockwaves through the music world, with fans and critics alike marveling at the strange serendipity of it all. Number 7. A Dragon Queen's Reign of Terror. When it comes to epic fantasy franchises, few can match the cultural impact of Game of Thrones. The HBO series captured the imaginations of millions of viewers around the world with its sprawling narrative, complex characters, and jaw-dropping plot twists. But for fans of The Simpsons, the show's bloody denouement may not have come as such a surprise. In the 2017 episode The Surfsons, The Simpsons took aim at the world of Westeros with a merciless parody that skewered everything from the show's gratuitous violence to its convoluted family trees. But amidst all the jokes and sight gags, there was one moment that would prove to be shockingly prescient. Near the end of the episode, a dragon suddenly appears and begins laying waste to a village, setting buildings ablaze and sending the inhabitants fleeing in terror. It's a scene that's played for laughs, but it also feels strangely familiar, especially in light of what would happen in the final season of Game of Thrones. In the penultimate episode of the series, Daenerys Targaryen, the show's ostensible hero, suddenly snaps and unleashes her dragon on the city of King's Landing, incinerating thousands of innocent civilians in a shocking display of brutality. The scene was met with a mixture of horror and disbelief from fans, many of whom felt that the show had betrayed its own characters and themes in service of a cheap shock value. Number 6. A fishy coincidence. When it comes to the intersection of pop culture and politics, there are few moments more surreal than the sight of a world leader chowing down on a fish caught in the radioactive waters near a nuclear power plant. But believe it or not, that's exactly what happened in Japan in 2023, more than 3 decades after The Simpsons first joked about the very same scenario. The episode in question, 2 cars in every garage and 3 eyes on every fish, first aired in 1990 and centered around the discovery of a 3-eyed fish in the waters near the Springfield nuclear power plant. The fish, which Bart Simpson dubs Blinky, becomes a major embarrassment for the plant's owner, Montgomery Burns, who is running for governor at the time. In a memorable scene, Burns attempts to prove that the fish is safe to eat by taking a bite out of it during a televised dinner at the Simpson home. But the stunt backfires spectacularly when Burns spits out the fish in disgust, sending his poll numbers plummeting and ultimately costing him the election. Fast forward more than 30 years, and life suddenly began to imitate art in the most bizarre way possible. In the wake of the 2011 Fukushima nuclear disaster, which saw a massive earthquake and tsunami that caused a meltdown at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, the Japanese government began a program to release treated radioactive water from the plant into the ocean. The move was met with widespread criticism and concern from environmental groups and neighboring countries, who feared that the water could harm marine life and contaminate the food chain. But in a shocking display of confidence, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida decided to prove that the water was safe by taking a bite out of a fish caught near the plant himself. The moment was captured on camera and quickly went viral, with many commentators noting the eerie parallels to the Simpsons episode from so many years before. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. The shooting incident at a rally in Pennsylvania involving former U.S. President Donald Trump has sparked global attention, with some claiming it's another example of The Simpsons' insane Donald Trump predictions that came true. A viral image suggests the show predicted Trump being shot in the ear. However, it was later revealed this image might be a hoax, likely created with Photoshop. What do you think? A real prediction or a clever fake? Let us know in the comments. Number 5. Nobel Prize. Predicting the winner of the Nobel Prize is about as difficult as forecasting the weather a year in advance, but somehow, in a blink and you'll miss it moment from a 2010 episode of The Simpsons, the show managed to do just that. The episode, titled Elementary School Musical, centers around a Nobel Prize betting pool organized by none other than Milhouse Van Houten. In a throwaway gag, Milhouse is shown to have correctly picked Bengt-R Holmstrom as the winner of the prize in economics. Fast forward to 2016, and the real-life Holmstrom, a Finnish economist known for his work on contract theory and incentive design, was indeed awarded the Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Sciences, along with Oliver Hart of Harvard University. The odds of predicting a Nobel Prize winner 6 years in advance are astronomically low, but somehow, The Simpsons managed to do it. It's the kind of eerie coincidence that has led some fans to speculate that the show's writers must have a crystal ball hidden away in their offices. Of course, the more likely explanation is that the show's writers are just incredibly well-read and plugged into the world of economics. Holmstrom's work on contract theory was already highly influential in the field by 2010, and it's possible that one of the show's writers was familiar with his research and decided to give him a shout-out in the script. Number 4. The Ebola Virus. Ebola virus is one of the most dangerous diseases known to humanity. In a bizarre example of unintentional foresight, a 1997 episode of The Simpsons featured a fictional children's book titled Curious George and the Ebola Virus. This imaginary book predicted a real-life Ebola outbreak nearly 2 decades before it happened. In the episode, titled Lisa's Sacks, Bart comes down with a bad case of the flu and is forced to stay home from school. To pass the time, he reads a series of increasingly bizarre children's books, culminating in the aforementioned Curious George title. At the time, the joke must have seemed like a bit of absurdist humor, a nod to the darkest fears of overprotective parents everywhere. But fast forward to 2014, and suddenly, the gag takes on a chilling new significance. That year, an Ebola outbreak ravaged West Africa, infecting more than 28,000 people and taking the lives of over 11,000. The virus even made its way to the United States, with a handful of cases reported in Texas and New York. The parallels between the fictional outbreak in The Simpsons and the real-life one are eerie, to say the least. In both cases, the disease is portrayed as a terrifying and unpredictable threat, one that can strike without warning and leave devastation in its wake. Number 3. Branson takes flight. What seemed like just another Simpsons gag turned out to be an eerie peek into the future of space travel. In an episode filled with art heists and globe-trotting, there's a moment most viewers missed, a small throwaway detail that hinted at what was yet to come. In the caper chase, Homer and Lisa set off to authenticate a suspiciously cheap painting, crossing paths with a quirky art forger named Klaus Ziegler along the way. But it's a brief cutaway gag that would prove to be the most prophetic. As Lisa and Ziegler debate the merits of his forged artwork, we see a quick flash of a familiar face, billionaire entrepreneur Richard Branson, floating in a spacecraft high above the Earth. At the time, it seemed like a silly joke, a nod to Branson's well-known love of all things high-flying and adventurous. But fast forward to 2021, and suddenly, the gag takes on a whole new meaning. In July of that year, Branson made history by becoming the first billionaire to fly to space aboard his own spacecraft, the VSS Unity. Number 2. When Sig Freed Met Roy. It's a tale as old as time. A magician and his tiger are locked in a deadly dance. But when The Simpsons took on the story of Siegfried and Roy, they added a twist that would prove to be prophetic in the most tragic way possible. In the episode Springfield or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love Legalized Gambling, the dynamic duo of Gunter and Ernst, a thinly veiled parody of Siegfried and Roy, take the stage with their trusty white tiger, Anastasia. But things take a dark turn when Anastasia suddenly turns on her handlers, mauling them in front of a horrified audience. It was a shocking moment, played for laughs in the world of The Simpsons. But fast forward a decade, and the real-life Siegfried and Roy would face a similar fate. In 2003, Roy Horn was attacked by one of his beloved tigers during a live performance, leaving him partially paralyzed and ending the duo's illustrious career. Number 1. The pandemic. When the COVID-19 pandemic first began to sweep across the globe in the early 2020, it felt like something out of a science fiction movie. The idea of a highly contagious virus spreading from person to person, forcing entire cities and countries into lockdown, seemed like the stuff of dystopian nightmares. But for fans of The Simpsons, the scenario may have felt a bit too familiar. That's because back in 1993, the show had aired an episode in which a mysterious virus called the Osaka flu spread through Springfield, causing widespread panic and forcing the town to take drastic measures to contain the outbreak. The similarities between the fictional virus and COVID-19 are eerie, to say the least. In both cases, the virus is portrayed as highly contagious and difficult to control, with symptoms that can range from mild to severe. In both cases, the response to the outbreak is chaotic and often contradictory, with some people taking the threat seriously while others downplay its severity. But perhaps the most uncanny parallel between the episode and the real-life pandemic is the way in which some characters in the show refuse to take basic precautions to prevent the spread of the virus. In one scene, a group of characters are shown ignoring social distancing guidelines and gathering in large groups, while others refuse to wear masks or take other steps to protect themselves and others. That's pretty much exactly what happened in the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, as some people ignored public health advice and continued to go about their lives as normal, even as the virus spread like wildfire. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.